Good evening, one and all. As for another insightful monologue, let's think about the idea, or what could be the idea, of love. A lot of people have said that love is a real thing, but it isn't imaginary. Whereas some people tend to believe the exact opposite, that it's completely contrived. There's no such thing as it. There's no foothold in reality that the notion of love really carries. How can it be real if it has no footing in reality? However, I tend to be of a different disposition about this subject. I recognize that in our culture, we're only taught to believe that a certain kind of love is the only one that is possible or relevant. The idea of intimate love, the idea that you have a profound, though somehow physical, affection towards someone is somehow the only thing worth living for, when in fact this isn't the case. Love is a feeling of extensionality, of feeling unity towards another living soul. Now, tell you what, guys, you can take that word, that phrase living soul that I've just said, and try and twist it up any way that you like. It's meant to be a generalized statement. Just because I use the word soul doesn't necessarily mean I believe in the soul. But anyway, that is up for audience's own discretion, isn't it? So, you may be thinking to yourself, well, Adam, how many different ways are there to mean love? Well, let's go through it. Well, as I said, love is a feeling of extensionality and unity towards another living soul. But does that have to be one single person? Cannot love actually apply to, I don't know, every other living spirit on this planet? Anywhere else in the universe? Is realizing that you are one with everything in this existence, does that actually change anything about who you want to be? No, it doesn't. It just means that you are part of it. It just means that you are, well, I mean, I hate to say that we're all cogs in a machine. You know, we're not all like the Lionsgate film logo with all the cogs and machinery. No, I mean it in the sense that love is knowing that you are one with someone else, whoever it may be, and realizing that you are part of them and they are part of you. And when you tap into this symbiosis that you have with another person, you realize that you feel a deep affection towards them, you feel a deep positivity towards them, because you recognize there are, dare I say, good moral things about a person. I mean, that's probably for another very big topic in of itself. But like I said, I am a bit of a tangential merchant. My process, as it may be called, is a bit of a strange one, because my brain is operating far quicker than it appears. But it's of a lot of that energy is going towards other thought processes at the same time. But anyway, back to the point, Adam. There's that sort of unity love that we feel, but there's also another one that's been constructed in our society. Maybe it's partly natural to us. I mean, I know that we're social organisms. I know that without human contact, we would actually physically die, especially in our formative years. Yeah, that's actually been found, that human beings are social creatures. We are symbiotically connected to each other, and we need each other for our own optimal development. Like, say, for example, an infant child, its body and its brain won't develop optimally and grow into a full-fledged human being, physically that is, if they haven't been touched, like, for example, stroked, or just their hand held. Like, say, for example, it has been shown that children who grow up in incubators are more genetically predisposed towards isolation complexes, that sort of thing. But that's another topic in of itself as well. But it's relevant to the context in hand in terms of love, because, I guess I'm just, quantifying how love is made up. And, well, not made up, I would say. I'd probably say comprised more than made up, because made up seems that it's a construct. But no, when you look at society, you'll notice that this unity form of love, it's not how society tends to orient itself. It tends to orient itself based upon the intimate love that we have grown to be taught is so much more important than anything else. We're taught that if we're not in a relationship, then we might as well kill ourselves, because without someone by our side every single day, and doing the things that couples do every single day, then you might as well kill yourself, because you're a worthless human being. We're taught that having intimate relationships is the one way that we grow somehow. We're taught this stratifying notion that those who are in relationships are actually worthy human beings because they have someone who loves them. What a crock of shit, okay? I'm sorry. This is a complete crock of shit. You can be happy on your own as long as you have, as Dr. Gabor Mate puts it, attachments to fellow human beings. Then you are fine as you are, okay, ladies and gentlemen? That's the point. We don't need people to complete us, because we are complete in and of ourselves. Okay, we are all complete human beings. We may not have learned everything, but as a human being, physiologically, emotionally, and psychologically, that we are complete. The only context that we as human beings are not complete is pragmatically. But that's the point. Because we haven't become complete pragmatically, we have been duped into the idea that we are separate from each other, and the only attachments we should have are with family, that being obviously the other souls in existence that have had some contribution in giving birth to you. And being around because they were also a product of those same people's procreation, so you tend to grow up physically around them. Those are the people that I refer to as family. However, we have developed the proper utilization for a connectiveness in our ideologies of family. There is a unity in a family. The term "blood is thicker than water." It's true, right? Regardless of what any person says, where they feel that they've disowned a daughter or any of this, really extreme stuff that tends to happen in the idea of family. But nonetheless, it is a cooperative, collective unit. A family is a collective, and it has many more forms in its value orientation than we think. The very idea of even the military is a family, or as they refer to it, a brotherhood. It's a symbiotic connection that they have in their pragmatic learning. Even Drill Sergeant Hartman from the film Full Metal Jacket had something to say on the matter. He said that you are now Marines, and every other Marine is your brother. See, brother, that's a title that comes from the family concept. Even down to urban gangs, they're a form of family. But the thing is, we have not considered ourselves as one huge family, as the entire human race. So when we realize that we as humanity are one big happy family, and by that I mean, our true potential is to be a happy family, not to be a selfish, destructive, hateful, vengeful, and corrupting brood. I mean our true capacity. And that's nothing but positive, because we have what is known as love. Now, personally, the idea of intimate relationships have actually been very, very, very important to my life as I've grown up. I've always tended to seek a partner to share my life with, whichever that may be. And I've always sought the attentions and the appreciations of women in the world. And that's resulted in a lot of suffering on everyone's parts, because the kind of person I am doesn't tend to gel well with the minds of the female of the species, I guess. It's almost like the diagnosis I received when I was 11 years old is actually true. The problems I have could be explained by that. But is that just making an excuse for myself? I mean, lots of people, they're really angry and short and hateful towards me, and they always tend to claim some sort of excuse, like, I don't know, I'm just having a bad day, or, I'm pregnant, my hormones are going all over the place. They seem to think that those are excuses to behave completely, what's the word that I'm looking for, acrimoniously towards myself. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know a few big words. Get over it, alright? But no, in all seriousness, we've been taught that this intimate love thing is the most important thing, but at the same time we have forgotten that the symbiotic form of love is the only important one, and it shouldn't be limited to any one person. Right? I'm not saying that we should all fuck everyone else on the planet. Let's just open up, total polygamy. No, I'm not saying total polygamy. I'm saying that we should all feel connected to each other as human beings, because we are fundamentally the same. That is the kind of thing. No, the functional process that comes out of love, that's another very big topic in of itself. Whether I would actually hasten to add a comment on the subject, then I would probably go off for another 20 minutes talking about it. But when we think about love, we also need to think about what we're prepared to do for it, what we're willing to sacrifice, and how much work are we willing to put into it. Are we that inclined to give so much energy and effort and emotion into our intimate relationships? Do they really serve us? Do they really make us happy? And I've found that unfortunately a lot of the time our relationships just make us unhappy, because love has been tarnished forever by the fact that we have grown up in a society where people tend to get together purely for economic benefit. We realize that without each other we would starve. We need to attach a ball and chain, as it were. Now, guys, you don't even want to get me started on the idea of marriage and how much I disagree. Even though I do appreciate the behavioral notion and symbolism, as it were, that marriage now represents. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but only on a very abstract level. But the very institution of marriage, sorry. Yeah, the institution of marriage over the institution of knowledge. That's what I meant to say. And we have completely lost our way in that sense, because we've attached this it's a completely, to coin a phrase from Bill Maher, a religious notion onto it, and it's just completely corrupted it. But the one thing I'd say that corrupts it even more is how we've tended to agree onto the implementation of a system that actually enslaves us, instead of supplying our existence as human beings on the fundamental level. Everything else is up to what we do. But it's strange how we've just been completely torn away from our true purpose, which is to love each other unconditionally, to work together, not to fight, and just work through what challenges our environment throws at us, because human beings can only exist within a very narrow band of environmental conditions that are known to us. I'd say about 95% of all environmental conditions that within existence are environmental conditions where the human being cannot survive and will not survive. You know, the human being needs certain things, and there's only a very narrow band of, you know, environments that exist that can support the human being. So we think to ourselves, crap, we're going to face challenges. So tell you what, guys, I can't remember how the saying goes, but I think it's many hands make light work, something like that. But that's true. So we got to work together on this planet. We can't dilly-dally, shilly-shally anymore. We've got to realize what we can do, what we can find out, and where we can go, and love is the only means that we will be able to achieve that. It's the only thing that will save us. John Lennon was actually right when he said all you need is love. Because when the notion of love first came into existence, us human beings didn't need to worry about, but we got to pay the bills, and all this bullshit that we've created in society, where we've got to worry about money and jobs and how to keep a roof over your head and clothes on your back and food on the table. It was love existed way before any monetary system did. Okay? It's been here way before anything else that we think has been around forever, basically. So how do we actually fully implement the notion of love within our value set? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's very, very simple. We just got to make a choice. That's all we got to do. We just got to make a choice. And as Bill Hicks rightly said, he said that it is a choice between fear and love. So that is how we make the world a better place. We realize that we are all one. We realize that there is no point in fighting. We realize that we're all the same on the fundamental level. We look at each other and we realize that they are a member of our family, and we can care for them just as much as we care for our blood relatives. Sorry, I meant to say blood, but I almost said brood. But yeah, that's really the only way. We make a choice between fear and love. Because any of our blood relatives that we know of, they're like our immediate family, right? Mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, uncles, aunts, grandparents, nieces, nephews, uncles, aunts, that sort of thing. We only tend to count that as family. But how about every other person on the planet? How about them as your brother or sister? In fact, we are, in a sense, only brothers and sisters. We are all brothers and sisters. And every other person that has existed before you is in part your mother or father. Every other person on the planet. Anyone who is old enough to have basically given birth to you. And that's essentially the message that we've got to learn. We have to learn that we should all love each other as we should love ourselves, and that we already do love our immediate family. Let's just apply that affection to everyone else on the planet. Isn't that simple? Yes, I know there are a lot of barriers in the way of this. We have conflicts in our collective mind. We have conflicts in our internal mind. We have conflicts everywhere. But they're not bridges that cannot be traversed. They're not. They are surmountable problems. And it only takes unity to achieve that. So when you think to yourself, am I a complete human being if I don't have anyone? Then I would answer with yes, you are a complete human being. No one else is going to complete you. You are complete within yourself already. Every single one of you. It's just some of us have learned a little wrong, that's all. People like me. People who have been an annoyance and a frustration to everyone around me. People who were friends with me, the vast majority of people who have ever met me, they're not friends with me anymore. So, I don't know. I mean, what does that even mean, man? What does it even mean to say, oh no, I don't have many friends that I've known in the past? What does that even mean? Does that even say anything good or bad about you? It shouldn't. But anyway, as I said, love is the only way that we can traverse that bridge. Bridge the differences between ourselves and take care not to burn any. So, final thoughts on the notion of love. I would say yes, it does exist. It tends to be a bit of an empty distinction for a lot of the different contexts that we use it for. But that doesn't mean that the notion on the whole does not exist. In fact, it's not a notion, it's a feeling. It's a human emotion. It is a physical process in our brains. You know, without endorphins, we would feel no love, because endorphins, as you may know, are endogenous morphines. Endogenous morphines. We've got to think about what we're actually going to do on this planet. Are we going to live or are we going to die? Do we want to live or do we want to die? Maybe that should be the apt phrase for a question. Do we want to live or do we want to die? Well, of course we want to live. Not naturally. The human survival instinct is not natural to us. It is something we develop if we develop optimally. However, you may notice by the very fact that people commit suicide every single day on this planet. In fact, I think every single hour there is someone on this planet who commits suicide. And that number is fast going up. So I may have actually, underestimated that number. But that shows that people aren't developing a survival mechanism. And we've got to realize that once we have love in our hearts, we can then see how we can survive. Because love is all we need. And all the problems we tend to have right now, they're meaningless. They're nothing to us. They're merely speed bumps on the long road to happiness. So we got to look within ourselves. We got to grab hold of that ability to love, feel it, and also then share it. There we go.